In Senegal, the debt debate is raging, and the current government is pointing a finger at the previous administration, accusing it of possible massive embezzlement in the name of debt. Economists are adamant that the problem of Senegal's debt is more political than economic.
Basically, there are rules of the West African Economic and Monetary Union. On the other hand, we have the rules of the IMF and the World Bank, which require transparency. It is only in this respect that we can say there's a problem, because if you go to developed countries, this debt is not included in their budget. But we have chosen to include this debt in our budget. And that means that our budget exceeds the West African Economic and Monetary Union standards of 70% of GDP going up to 132%. But debt is not a macroeconomic aggregate, and the WEMU standards are political rather than economic.
An IMF mission has just visited Senegal to try and understand the situation criticized by the government in order to find a way out of the impasse.
So the IMF completed a mission to Senegal, and it was very constructive. Like some African countries, Senegal was operating with a significant chunk of debt hidden, debt that was contracted from international partners, and it means that giving a wrong debt to GDP ratio and debt figures to its international partners, but also to multilateral partners, compromised its development. This is why at its most recent visit to Senegal, the IMF didn't conclude with any program, but the visit actually sets the foundation for the IMF to continue to support Senegal under its programs in the long run.
However, growth of between 4.5% and 5% is expected in the coming months for a country that has just discovered huge gas reserves and is rapidly developing sectors such as agriculture. But they must acknowledge that public affairs have not been managed transparently.
So the Senegal economy has performed strongly, driven by agriculture, oil and gas, and tourism to a lesser extent. This year, most international partners, we at CEPI, expect the Senegal economy to grow, the non-oil economy to grow by about 4.7 to 5%. Now, if you include oil and gas, the economy, real GDP growth could average anything from 7.9% to about 8.5%. So the Senegal economy is robust, it is increasingly diversified, and they have the potential to become a high-income country in the next decade. Now, this starts first with an acknowledgement that public finance management has failed, and it begins by correcting them. So I think we have to also recognize the authorities' efforts for in the commitment to transparency and fiscal discipline.
Even if the debt does not pose a problem, concealing it undermines Senegal's credibility with the IMF and foreign partners. This situation complicates African countries' access to international markets. Beryl Oro, CGTN.